He's served his community for 21 years on Cessnock Council. Today, John Clarence received a very public thank you in the form of an Order of Australia medal.
Well, it's something I'll cherish for the rest of my life. I am retiring in September, and to have the AOM after my name is something that I'll always cherish.
Dr. Robert Siller also made the OAM list for his work in medicine alongside 6 other Hunter residents, but the highest honour went to the Hunter Valley Research Foundation's Wedge Paradise, who was awarded an AM for his service to conservation and the environment, while the region also received 3 emergency service medals and 3 military honours. Madeline Bond, NBN News. Some fled war-torn countries, others wanted a change, and then there were those who followed in their parents' footsteps. 120 people in Newcastle and 75 at Lake Macquarie today pledged their allegiance to Australia, including all 7 members of the Mohammed family from Sudan.
I'm just trying to get better education, better life.
My favourite part of Australia is the people and the places.
Australia Day celebrations were in full tilt across the Hunter, with a very Aussie theme park emerging in Maitland. And thousands lined Newcastle's foreshore for the Ducks for Dollars race, as well as the Stockton swim. The Australian flag was worn, waved and displayed with pride and creativity. While some spent our National Day enjoying a traditional barbie, others indulged in a bit of larrikinism. Madeline Bond, NBN News.
Players are driven to perform in various ways, but the skipper was most clear what's motivated him this season. Critics.
Obviously they don't know what they're talking about, especially the media down Sydney and all that sort of in the papers. Every time the tipping, have a look in the papers, they've always got us to draw or lose. So thanks for that, guys. I really appreciate it.
The skipper admitting this is the best he's felt pre-match this season.
Just sense that vibe, and I think this is the first time where I really feel confident going into a game, after 3 good wins.
A further boost today with defender Andrew Durante clear to play, while the coach isn't underplaying the importance of having Adam Griffiths back from suspension. He's shaping as the only change in what's been a winning formula of late.
You've got to ensure, I suppose, that the ones who have done the job to get you into the situation you are, that you need to stand by people.
Meanwhile, the Mariners arrived in enemy territory today with Socceroos striker John Aloisi proving his fitness. A short time ago, less than 200 tickets remained available for the match.
we've had just under 3,000 drivers stopped and breath tested, and of those, 22 have been arrested for drink driving, and this is up some 14 on the same period last year.
They helped save hundreds of homes and dozens of lives during the devastating June long weekend storms. Now the SES is asking for our help. The Newcastle branch of the organisation has just 86 members and they need more.
I'd like about another 25. We do get a few people drop out for various reasons.
With further damaging weather predicted over the New South Wales storm season, which ends on the 31st of March, the branch would like volunteers to join sooner rather than later. Unlike most jobs, no prior skills are required to become a member of the State Emergency Service.
Just to have that willingness to help the community in times of need. And some of the storms that do hit here, as we know, and what we had in June long weekend won't be the last, unfortunately.
The branch is holding a recruitment drive at its Ties Hill headquarters next month.
We do require 1 night a week training. We provide all the training free, all of their clothing is free, and we'll welcome them.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
It wasn't a case of who was going to win, but by how far Danny Lee was going to win by. Starting the day 17 under, the 17-year-old was quickly on the move, taking just 1 hole to extend his lead with a birdie start. As casual as a Sunday afternoon, the only people that haven't been blown away by Lee's form here are New Zealand team officials. They've been watching him carve up courses both at home and overseas for some time. There was little his playing partners could do in trying to catch the Kiwi. However, Sam Arnold was one who enjoyed some moments of brilliance himself. While praising his iron shots after previous rounds, Lee's short game wasn't too bad either, as he moved to 19 under and seemingly with the course at his mercy. Although hovering there for much of the day, he walked up the last with records to match. At 17, he becomes the first junior to win the Open event since Peter O'Malley in 1986. While finishing at 20 under, Lee equals the lowest winning score. And with that sort of form, there's every chance by this time next year he'll be teeing it up professionally.
Police arrived at the Nerang home at noon to find one man dead and his partner inconsolable. The man, aged in his 20s, gunned down in the backyard, shot 3 times in the chest in front of family members and friends who'd gathered to celebrate his release from prison. A toddler who had been swimming in the pool is also thought to have witnessed the shooting.
We believe that the victim and the offender spoke, and that the offender produced a firearm.
The gunman, believed to be a 31-year-old man with a shaved head, fled the scene in a black BMW. Neighbours heard the shots and then screaming. It's believed the shooting is the result of a love triangle that has now turned deadly, leaving family and friends shattered and his partner devastated by their loss. The gunman is also known to police. Shan Vivers, NBN News.
This is what greeted those walking along Hunter Street this morning. Broken glass, scattered debris and building materials, even soiled underwear, all of which has been thrown out of the Empire Hotel by one of its illegal residents.
I was here last night doing some work and you had a fella there just emptying all the rubbish on the street and on the road. I don't know how long council's going to put up with it.
Nearby business owners say they have no end of trouble with squatters' illegal and dangerous activities.
We've had all sorts of problems. It's been terrible for us. We own the building next door here and we just don't know what's going to happen next. We don't know if our building's going to catch on fire. We have contacted council, very concerned.
But according to the Lord Mayor, there's little council can do.
This is a classic example of the difficulty that council has coping with a situation like this.
He says council needs more power to evict squatters and board up vacant buildings.
The time frame from the point when we send the first letter to the time we can actually physically take action needs to be shortened up, and it needs to be shortened up by some months.
And even though council has already approved the demolition of the building, there's no telling if or when the Empire will be removed.
Now we understand there's another application coming in. Now that could be a delaying tactic.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
It's a great atmosphere. All credit goes to the Newcastle people, and they love a winning team. We're giving it to them.
These were the lucky passengers. While they faced at least a 3.5-hour delay at Newcastle Airport after their Tiger Airways flight to Melbourne was cancelled, they at least made it on a plane. Others were forced to drive to Sydney to catch a flight. This family of 5 says the cancellation has left them $1,000 out of pocket.
They didn't tell us anything other than when we arrived it was a cancelled flight, and there was no other flight out today that they would try and get us on tomorrow morning's flight. No guarantees we'll be even out tomorrow morning.
It's actually my birthday tomorrow. I was here for the diving championships and I can't get home for my birthday.
Tiger Airways said the flight was cancelled due to an aircraft in Perth which required maintenance. That created a flow-on effect in Newcastle. Madeline Bond, NBN News.
Hunter Olympian Olivia Gollan brought mate and Commonwealth Games gold medalist Natalie Bates along for today's inaugural Amy Gillett Foundation race around Kooragang Island. Both were amazed by the large turnout.
I'm really surprised. We came up yesterday from Sydney and expected a little club race, but there's so many people here today. It's such a good cause. It's fantastic that Kooragang and all the Newcastle cyclists have gotten behind this day.
Donations and a cheque from the Kooragang Open Cycling Club raised more than $2,000 for the foundation set up to remember the champion cyclist. It aims to improve road safety for cyclists, which rings home in the Hunter after the death of local solicitor Dominic Mason on a training ride at Blacksmiths last year.
I just want there to be a shared respect amongst motorists and cyclists, and for us all just to use the roads safely together.
3 generations of the Brown family completed the race. For the record, 73-year-old granddad was the fastest. Nathan Stewart took line honours in the elite category, Mick Cunin won A grade and Caleb de Gelder was the fastest junior.
Hopefully this will be a long-running and successful event.
Penny Evans, NBN News.
Today's auditions attracted the sorts of characters producers dream about. Some, still apprentices, were after a start in the industry, while others wanted a second chance. And the nerves were understandable. The hopefuls were answering to high-profile hairdresser Renya Zedis. Renya styles Australia's most famous do's, from Nicole Kidman to Hugh Jackman. So if anyone knows what it takes to run $1 million salon, it's her.
Quite a few cute little characters here, and a lot of they want to make a go of it, which is quite cool, but a bit of naivety as well.
From today's auditions, the producers will choose 2 people to set up and run a salon in the Hunter, one of 6 across Australia. The salons will be open to the public, who will eventually vote for the winner.
And I think, a lot of things happen in hairdressing salons. People confess, people tell things to their hairdressers that they would never tell their wives, their husbands or their priests. So in terms of human drama, it's going to be very good.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
It's been a while since we've had an important match. We've had a couple of friendlies, but this is as big as it gets.
They say winners are grinners and losers can please themselves, and there was little doubt when Newcastle sat on that ledger today.
We just got to stay level-headed. We've got to keep our feet on the ground.
That was a little hard to do last night after the league's leading scorer netted a shot from the spot, which secured Newcastle a 2-0 win and one hand on a grand final berth. It was a big night for the Griffiths family, let alone the Jets team. Twin brother Adam heading home the first in his return from a 2-match suspension.
They were pretty happy. My sister was pretty happy and my girlfriend was happy that I scored.
Yeah, Mum and Dad are pretty proud. I think they must have bought about 8 papers this morning.
There was a lot to talk about though, especially from the Mariners camp, with John Aloisi's disallowed goal a major sore point. After missing an earlier penalty, then hitting the post, the Socceroos striker had a goal disallowed for offside all before half-time. A call on reflection which looked harsh to say the least. It was hard to cop for the minor premiers, who face a tough task from here to win the semi-final series.
At least if we don't go through, at least beat them and go into the next game full of positive things and look to get in the grand final that way.
Jim Callanan, NBN News. Defenders don't usually draw too much attention, but the form of the Newcastle Jets backline has been hard to ignore of late, and last night was no exception. You'll get no argument that they rode their luck at times last night, but the job of keeping Central Coast scoreless was completed with a fair mixture of skill all the same.
The whole backline was good the whole game, and we were really solid with Jade. I thought Jade was probably man of the match.
While bidding farewell to 7 Socceroos for the next 10 days, the Jets are more than aware of the position they're in.
No Newcastle team's ever been in a final, let alone won it, so that's what we're aiming for. We've set ourselves up really good, so we can lose it from now.
And that would only be from complacency, something the coach will be at pains to avoid in the next 2 weeks.
We also can't have an attitude that we're going to go down there and defend the lead. That's the last thing we can do. You encourage teams on, and the one team you don't want to encourage on is Central Coast. They'll make you pay.
By then, they should have Korean international striker Song cleared to play, adding another attacking weapon to the arsenal. And for fans keen on grand final tickets, they don't go on sale until after the return match at Gosford. Former Australian road racing champion Olivia Golan has been the heart and soul of the Australian team since bursting onto the national stage early in 2003. A major part of turning Australia into the world force that it is, the Athens Olympian and Melbourne Commonwealth Games rider is literally taking it every ride at a time.
Look, Beijing's 6 months away, so we'll see what happens.
In familiar territory with Australian teammate Natalie Bates today, Golan's immediate future remains on her professional commitments in Europe.
We've got some international racing in Geelong and then across in New Zealand at the end of February. So yeah, Natalie and I are gearing up towards those before our European season.
The Olympics is the only thing on the minds of these girls. The Chinese water polo side is touring Australia as part of their lead up to the Games. Last night and today it was the Hunter Hurricanes who played host, and while the visitors dominated both matches, the locals gave as good as they got, considering they played 2 National League matches at the weekend. In fact, several had to back up and represent their club sides in the country championship deciders this afternoon. Central Newcastle getting home against local rivals Lake Macquarie by just a goal, 3-2. While in the men's grand final, Lake Macquarie turned things around for the club by beating Central Coast team Woy Woy 7-5.
The message, "you are what you eat," certainly isn't new, but Hunter adults are being told to shape up or face long-term health problems. New figures show more than 50% of adults in the region's metropolitan areas and more than 55% in rural areas are battling the bulge.
They have to reduce the amount of fatty foods, reduce the amount of grazing on any old sugary and fatty food, and go for a walk. At least 3 to 5 times a week, at least 30 to 40 minutes a day.
The Hunter recorded one of the state's worst figures, something Anne Sprogus believes could be linked to demographics.
Sadly, most of us are fat Europeans rather than slimmer people from other parts of the world.
Sports Minister Graham West handed out more than $100,000 in grants to local sporting clubs today to try to encourage more people to get active.
They're not all high impact sports, so even if you're getting on in years and want to get involved, there's a sport that you can get active and involved in that won't do damage to your body.
It's a message GPs say we need to take more seriously or face handing our bad habits onto the next generation.
It's no good just telling our kids to not snack between meals and not to have sugar drinks and that sort of thing if the adults don't set the example.
Penny Evans, NBN News.
Hunter on Show was the last to be staged at Broadmeadow in 2006. On April 10th, the Newcastle show will make its long-awaited return over 4 days. The date coincides with the start of the April school holidays, in a move show coordinator Kim Hillary believes will reinvigorate the event.
It's going to be constant from the day it opens to the day it finishes. There'll be something new, something vital, and always something to do and see.
As to whether equine influenza will impact on equestrian events will become clearer later this week.
I'm still waiting for answers on that. We hope to have answers by Friday in regards to what horsing events we will have.
Concern about the need to improve safety for showground patrons was the main reason for the delay in holding the show. Work is well underway on those improvements, from re-roofing the main grandstand to replacing the fence around the main arena. Gone are the buildings at the northern end of the showground, with the area set to be ready for use in April.
Laying landscaping, putting up some new hockers for the businesses and that to be involved in, and we're going to have Country Corner up there.
Gary Blair, NBN News.
Being caught speeding in a school zone will at best cost you $128 and 4 demerit points. At worst, it could cost a child's life. Following a long holiday break, motorists are again being reminded to observe the 40km/h school zones.
We can all get caught going a few kilometres too fast in a school zone, or you see there's no children around, so you think it doesn't matter, but you really do. The laws are put in place to save children's lives.
Parents are also being reminded of the rules, in particular the dangers of stopping on or near a children's crossing and double parking.
We mustn't be selfish about dropping off and picking up your child. You have to obey the parking rules, and if you have to walk a little further, then so be it. But it's for the safety of all the children, not just for your child.
Meanwhile, the last-minute stocking up of back-to-school essentials continued into the 11th hour today. Children made the traditional pilgrimage to shoe stores to be fitted for their new shoes.
Kids are fussy, but the girls tend to be a bit more fussy than boys because they know what they want. Because back to school these days is an event, and it's a fashion thing too, so that's changed.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
She may have only been actively involved in her latest career for 4 years, but Carol Hewkin continues to cement her place among Australia's leading bush poets. Her third book, Touching Tales, has drawn acclaim for Carol's versatile writing talents, which have been recognised with the Golden Gumleaf Literary Prize for Book of the Year.
I just thought a good mix of short and funny, ballady, tearjerkers, political quips from my ABC program, all those sort of things have gone into this book this time.
Also in her Tamworth Awards swag, performance honours including the Golden Damper for traditional bush poetry, as well as medals including a bronze for an original composition.
It's very hard to beat those fellas. They've got the big booming voices and they have far more choice of material because a lot of stuff is not suitable for women to perform.
One piece that did work for Carol, her recital of the horse-drawn funeral.
When frost bejewels the grasses and the moon hangs cold and low, spirits rise to sit on headstones for a ghostly rodeo. Satan's eyes glow evil through his tangled tossing mane as buck jumping through the graveyard, Bronco Harry rides again.
Gary Blair, NBN News.
Todd Polglaze stood as a Newcastle Knights player for the final time this morning. After teammates completed their training, a few short words effectively brought to an end his NRL career. It was an emotional gathering as he mingled among the team one final time, and the esteem they hold for him was obvious.
Yeah, it's always sad to see a Knights member, leave in those sort of circumstances, not on his own terms. He's given great service to every club that he's been at, but he's a local boy and a son of a coal miner and what the club's all about.
A persistent hamstring injury has plagued Polglaze for the past few seasons, and breaking down at training again last week was the last straw for the 26-year-old. Meanwhile, Jared Mullen has been cleared of any major damage despite being troubled by a hip flexor problem at today's session. Able to resume, he showed signs of discomfort, but it isn't considered serious. It doesn't get much more serious than pneumonia, and it recently floored Mitchell Sargent.
I spent about 8 or 9 days in hospital and lost about 7 or 8 kilos, so I am looking a bit better, which is good, lose a bit of weight.
Able to joke about it now, it has set his pre-season way back, with doctors ordering him to watch on for at least a further 2 to 3 weeks.
When you're sitting there and you're not doing anything, you really want to get out and do something, so that's the hard thing to do. You want to train, but you can't train, so it's really hard.
Jim Callanan, NBN News. Only a month ago, Stu Michalek admitted he didn't feel he was of any use to a football side, but now he's mixing it with Australia's elite at the Socceroos camp in Melbourne. It's a sure sign the talented midfielder has turned the corner after months of frustration related to a mystery illness, which drained him mentally and physically.
In a team environment and that, you don't want to feel like you're letting the team down and that, you know what I mean? And that was probably the hardest thing to sort of deal with, that I felt like I was letting the boys down.
However, his performance at the weekend has given everyone confidence that he's nearing his best at the right time of the year. Amazed by the support the game now has in his hometown, Michalek can't help but think about what may lay ahead with the Jets in the box seat to reach the season decider, even if it won't be played in Newcastle.
Regardless, it's going to be something special if we can pull in even playing a grand final, but to pull home a trophy in that for Newcastle, it's going to be something very special.
Meanwhile, the Griffiths brothers, Adam and Joel, are among 4 players who are on light duties with the Socceroos for the first few days of camp at least. The coach won't name his squad to play guitar until 2 days before the match on February 6.
Time is almost up for the present team of councillors. When their term expires in September, one legacy they will leave is the city budget to be finalised over the next 5 months. What the public would like included in that budget begins taking shape from next Wednesday, when several hundred business and community representatives start with a blank sheet of paper to list priorities for council action.
This year we're introducing a section up front before we prepare the draft budget. That'll involve a series of 4 workshops with the community. We're also bringing into play this year an internet-based community consultation tool called Bang the Table.
The Mayor says ratepayers will continue to have input throughout the process.
A consultation with the community, talking to people, receiving their responses and trying to formulate a budget that suits the needs of what the community wants, and that mainly is to repair our infrastructure.
The workshops will also hear what impact last June's storms have had on the council's works program.
They've delayed some of our works because we've had to deal with those more urgent priorities, but we are progressing through that.
Gary Blair, NBN News.
Illness forced Morpeth's doctor to retire last year, and ever since the town has been searching for a replacement. Many of the patients are now being treated at Thornton, and the practice is booming, its current facility unable to meet the demand.
That certainly has increased our workload quite a bit already. We're quietly confident that with extra manpower we can, we can rise to the occasion and deal with that, satisfactorily.
Unlike Morpeth, Thornton isn't feeling the pinch of the rural doctor shortage and has designed a new medical centre to be built next door that it hopes will be open within 12 months.
We're also hoping to attract other health professionals such as dietitians, physiotherapists, psychologists.
Maitland Council last night agreed to rezone the land, but it will need state government approval before it goes out for tender.
I would hope that the proponents of this are not expecting council to give this land away. It is publicly owned land and we have a right to get the best price possible for it.
Penny Evans, NBN News.
The outreach service is very important to the local community, and it's something that the government, as part of its domestic violence program, is also very keen to support.
Thousands flocked to Morpeth last year for the inaugural International Beer Fest, but the event left a sour taste for some locals, so council's now considering moving it to the jail. At least one businessman thinks Morpeth didn't give it a chance.
I don't think it was given a fair go. The first year had teething problems, but they could have been worked out, I think, if some people hadn't been so uncooperative about it all.
Mayor Peter Blackmore says clearly it left some people bitter and twisted.
It was a very successful event. It actually made money, but it's the downside when there's no sense in running an event if you cannot get the full cooperation from people.
The move to the Maitland jail would solve a number of headaches.
You do not have to do street closures. You have your toilet facilities already there on hand. And of course the Maitland Jail is already a tourist destination.
Graham Levick believes Morpeth is losing a great opportunity, but he'll still support the event.
But it wasn't all about making money that weekend, it was just about letting people know Morpeth's here.
Council has deferred a decision on the festival's future. Penny Evans, NBN News.
Growing grapes alongside each other for more than 100 years, the Hunter Valley vignerons are like family, so it was almost assumed they would unite to harvest the Drayton's crop.
We're all competitors here, but most of us are pretty good mates, and that's right across the whole industry actually. It was just the logical thing we were going to do.
It's part of the Hunter Valley. We're a family, and we've got to pull together. McWilliams have had a very close relationship with the Drayton's family for generations. We've helped them out many times before and they've helped us out.
Tyrrells, McGuigan's and McWilliams are in the middle of crushing the white grapes. The red variety will be picked and crushed early next week. All up, 500 tonnes or 500,000 bottles of wine will be bottled for the family winery.
We'll store it and look after it till it's ready to bottle as if it was our own.
It's the busiest time of the year for the vineyards, but Bruce Tyrrell says it's about time his family repaid an old debt.
Our old winery blew down in the late 30s, and Maurice O'Shea made all of our wines round at Mount Pleasant for the next 2 vintages because our winery wasn't operable, so it's nice to be able to return the favour.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
They're the A-League's form team, but that form has seen a majority of the Jets involved in Socceroos preparations. While he admits the timing is lousy, Gary Van Egmond says the national side must take preference.
I think this can work for you in the fact that the players get a real buzz and get on a real high, and that can have a flow-on effect within your team as well.
After struggling late in the season, the coach believes the camp will boost the confidence of young stars Mark Bridge and Stuart Michalek. Both players will need to be at their best when the Jets head to Gosford in 10 days to protect a 2-goal advantage against a Central Coast side desperate for revenge.
It'll be interesting to see if they look to play 3 up front from the beginning, play 3 at the back to start off with, if it's all out attack or if they want to ease into it.
But Van Egmond doesn't want his team to play defensively and allow the Mariners' attacking weapons of John Aloisi and Sasho Petrovski any opportunities.
I think Jade and I handled the two of them quite well, but yeah, we definitely can't give him those chances that we gave him last week.
Meanwhile, the Jets could have a clearance for Korean international Song by tomorrow, giving him the chance to face the Central Coast.
You're looking to always make the team as strong as possible, and if he's going to add to that and become more effective in that last third, then he'll definitely be in the mix.
Mitchell Hughes, NBN News. They weigh more than 5 tonne and cost over $300,000 to build, and this weekend they'll be given 2 minutes to wreak as much havoc as possible.
We've got 5 of the best monster trucks in the world coming here.
Clive Featherby has been driving these monsters for over 2 decades, but he says none bark as loud as Scooby-Doo. His sons are both record breakers behind the wheel.
Billy's still the official youngest monster truck driver at 16. He started when he was 13 and a half. And Jay debuts this week as well, and he's just turned 14 a week ago.
If it's 2 wheels you prefer, maybe this will get you out of your seat. South Australia's freestyle champion Josh Burden, just one of the top riders who'll wow the crowd. Or maybe it's raw power that gets your engine running.
Plus we've got a couple of jet cars. They're going to have a meltdown showdown where they're going to put 2 cars beside each other so you can melt one down to a blob of metal first.
While the media buckled up in the back for this stunt, the professionals strapped into the hot seat. The kids weren't keen to see Mum face the wall of fire, but this travelling show has an impeccable safety record. The Monster Truck Spectacular starts this Saturday at 6. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
Newcastle's legal precinct may look the part, but it's simply too small for the city's needs.
The region has had to put up with a lot of ad hoc arrangements in regard to the hearing of cases, which has been very unfair on the people who are involved.
The legal fraternity want a new justice precinct, and following today's announcement of a 2-month feasibility study into such a venture, they could get just that.
And what we're looking at is opportunities to be able to combine justice sector agencies together on one site, including not only the state courts but also the Commonwealth courts and potentially also the private sector.
And that's not all.
and also to look at the opportunities for the University of Newcastle to be able to have a presence there whereby students will be able to obtain experience by being co-located on the Justice Precinct site.
The Attorney-General says if the project goes ahead, it will have a development cost of anywhere between $35 and $100 million. Height and heritage restrictions on this site mean it can't be further developed. One possibility the study will look at is having the new precinct located in Newcastle's rundown West End.
Obviously, the Justice Precinct has the potential to revitalise that area of town if it is located in that area of town.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
This is the top of the range in Port Stephens. Waterfront properties at Corlett and Soldiers Point. They're now worth at least $1.5 million. Real estate agents say prices may even have gone up since the values were compiled last July.
Ranging from, well, in the last 3 or 4 months, I think we've sold around 6 waterfront properties, ranging from about 1.6 for a duplex, 2.25 for a knockdown house, right up to 3.7 million for a huge waterfront property at Corlett.
Away from the coast, residential land value isn't quite as hot. In Raymond Terrace, an average house block is worth about $110,000. Commercial and industrial land parcels are worth at least $200,000 more, while at Tomago, industrial land value has nearly doubled.
To see a 3.5% decrease in the residential land value, yeah, a little bit of a surprise, but I suppose more importantly there was a 54.6% increase in the business rate, so in the business land value rate.
Demand for rural land has remained steady across the council area, but council says residents shouldn't be expecting any major changes to their rates.
No difference to the council itself. We don't get any. It's simply splitting the pie a different way.
Penny Evans, NBN News. The rescue helicopter crew will find it hard to forget the day they winched the sailors from the Pasha Balka to safety in unprecedented conditions. But they knew if something went wrong, the local lifeguards were hovering on jet skis in the rough sea to come to their rescue.
They were in conditions that were far worse than we were. They were actually in it. They were in the boiling sea around the ship, and they were just sitting there waiting for the whole entire time, an hour and a half.
They've wanted to thank the lifeguards ever since, and today honoured them with a plaque.
We wanted the public acknowledge the work of the Newcastle City Council lifeguards, and particularly what happened on that day.
The lifeguards know if they're ever needing help, the chopper will be first on scene.
The boys, we work well together. We might give each other a hard time during the year, but when you come together like that, it's a fantastic experience and something we're proud of to be associated with the Westpac Rescue Helicopter.
Penny Evans, NBN News.
They were important steps this morning, the first to the next 13 years of school life. With shiny shoes, a new uniform and plats thanks to Mum, the long wait for big school was almost over. There was still plenty of fussing going on though. To make sure everything was just right. Well, almost. Just need the hat to top off the whole look. Just gorgeous. There can't be too much to kindergarten. But whatever happens, there will always be a familiar face to tag along, perhaps a friend for life. With bags on backs, though a bit too big, and a few final photos, it was time to head off hand in hand, ready for the walk to school. While some blended in well, backed up by an entourage, others were not so keen on leaving Mum and Dad behind, but with a buddy showing the ropes and the warm, friendly smile of the teachers.
Good morning, kindergarten. Good morning, Miss Melvin.
It was all going to be okay. Jane Goldsmith, NBN News.
Even on this perfect summer day, Blacksmiths Beach was hardly packed, but in 4 weeks' time the sand will be crawling with thousands of bronzed Aussies. Having last hosted the state championships in 2003, the Swansea Belmont Club has once again been chosen to run the world's third largest surf lifesaving competition.
This venue certainly will cater for what we have seen in our growth over the years.
In the past, clubs from the far north and far south have avoided travelling to Sydney for the titles, but Blacksmiths has proved to be an ideal location. The best athletes from Tweed Heads to Bega will be here, headlined by world-class competitors Naomi Flood and Nathan Smith.
They're captains of our New South Wales team, which recently defeated those ones north of the border, so we're still certainly the champion status when it comes to surf lifesaving.
15,000 people will flock to the region with accommodation booked out across the Lower Hunter. The excitement already rubbing off on the home club.
Without a doubt, our juniors, they train pretty well every night of the week now in their various age groups, and even now there's a buzz amongst them now with about 4 weeks away.
And as always, local rivalries will be put aside.
When a club from the Hunter branch has success, you find that every club goes up and applauds.
The junior events start proceedings on February 29 before the Masters and Open competitors hit the water over the following 2 weeks. Mitchell Hughes, NBN News.
We've been planning this for probably 6 or 8 months now. It'll go all the way through to the day before the event. It involves a lot of water safety. Obviously, safety is paramount in these sort of events.
The profile of Rosalind Ray's murderer isn't much, but it's more information than police have previously offered.
It's from evidence that we've gathered at the scene and also from talking to people who are Rosalind's friends is that we believe it's a male, a person who was known to Rosalind.
Police believe the man attacked 52-year-old Rosalind inside her Lehman Street home in a fit of rage due to the sheer number of times she was stabbed. Since the basic profile was released this morning, detectives say several people have called in with fresh information on the nearly 3-year-old case. To date, detectives have called in a forensic psychologist to help with the investigation and DNA tested around 30 people. Meanwhile, last year's murders of Cooks Hill business identity Frank Newbury and Bar Beach's Gordon French remain unsolved, but detectives deny the cases have gone cold.
To call it a cold case would be it is filed away, not to be worked on again. These are active investigations and will be until we take them no further.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
It's certainly an upgrade. These sheds were brought here almost 50 years ago, and now the Hunter Valley Research Foundation has a $700,000 state-of-the-art extension. Opened by Minister Costa today, it's the first stage of a major overhaul planned for the Maryville site.
Reaccommodating is the first part of it, but I guess when you get good staff and you're able to generate good research program and further develop the reputation of the organisation, we hope that that will in itself lead to further expansion down the track.
Michael Costa also used his visit to the Hunter today to push the privatisation of the state's electricity retailers to raise revenue for a new baseload power station probably to be built in the Upper Hunter. He believes the union campaign, which has disrupted work at power plants across the region, is misinformed.
Some people you can't please and are deliberately misinforming the public. Under the proposals, jobs will be protected, there'll be more investment and consumers will be protected as well.
But he wouldn't say whether the sell-off plans have the full support of the Hunter's Labor MPs.
The government's intention is to go ahead. Like many of these things, people want clarification and we're happy to provide that, but we've got no alternative.
Penny Evans, NBN News.
Barry O'Farrell wasn't shy about making promises for Port Stephens today.
Come the next election and the election of Liberal National Government, there will be a locally led police command established for this electorate.
Though there were calls for a Port Stephens local area command to be set up before then.
Let's not make this an election issue in 3 years' time. How about Mr Campbell comes up here and sticks to the commitment that they gave at the last election and build the damn thing?
The coalition frontbenchers also pledged to upgrade Tomaree Hospital.
What we do is expand it to include day surgery centre, hostel type arrangements, aged services and community health services. And with that we'd hope to attract doctors, nurses and other health professionals.
The local member called the meeting, which was held in Port Stephens Council chambers, claiming his area was being overlooked by the Yemma government.
They seem to come to the Hunter Valley to either make promises or break them, and they're not looking after people at Port Stephens at all.
Madeline Bond, NBN News.
Completed by French surveyor Francis Barralia in 1801, the plan is the earliest blueprint of Newcastle and provides details of the region's landscape at the time of colonisation. It had been missing for more than a century before it was tracked down by the Coal River Working Party.
In a way, it's like our Rosetta Stone. You know, we understand the landscape. It was the map that they used in order to exploit the region of its resources.
Today, Her Excellency Marie Bashir accepted one of 5 copies of the Barralia Plan, which will be hung in Government House.
That's the correct place for it because it was really the beginning of an understanding of the great prosperity, the great goodness that this region would bring to the nation.
While in Newcastle, Her Excellency took the opportunity to inspect the restoration work at Fort Scratchley and became the first Vice-Regal to fire one of its guns. The work is on schedule for completion in March and should be open to the public from the June long weekend.
People who visited before we moved out and before the Vandals moved in saw a great old fort, but it was old and it looked tired and worn. Today they're going to see it rejuvenated and as it looked when it was built in 1882.
Lauren Bladwell, NBN News.
It was a cork in the upper thigh region. Probably looked a lot worse than it's actually feeling now. Did a aerobic session this morning. It was a little bit uncomfortable, but that's about all it was. So.
It's all about getting to know each other at the Scorpions this pre-season. As new players arrive at the Toronto club to wear the green and gold for the first time, Andrew Price and Matt Nicol among them.
We were both working together in Sydney and just sick of the rat race, so we wanted to get out, and this seemed like a great place to go.
The 25-year-old second rower speaks from experience. He spent 4 years in Newcastle at the Knights before a season at the Dragons.
I had a lot of injuries. It sort of ended that NRL career. That's why I decided to stop chasing that and get something else in order.
The pair played all of their junior football together in Canberra and are best mates. Andrew's training to be a carpenter. Matt already is. He's also the nephew of Raiders great Laurie Daly.
He's seen a few games, but we sort of don't talk like that. He's just my uncle compared to a football star. So, yeah, it's good when he can get out.
It's a new look Macquarie outfit after 13 players left the club at the end of last season. Former Knight and Cowboy Neil Sweeney is among the more recent signings, with the side steered by country coach Mal Graham.
He certainly knows how to bring a squad of players together and operate at the highest level as a team and a slick unit.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News. Tiffany Lincoln always gives her clients service with a smile. And the hairstylist's grin has been especially wide since learning of her late selection in the New South Wales Swifts, combining Hunter and Sydney teams into one for the new semi-professional Trans-Tasman League.
Still very hopeful because I knew that there was 2 positions left and then obviously when I got the call, over the moon.
She hasn't lost focus of her roots though. Despite the regular commute to Sydney, the 22-year-old intends to keep her job and home in the Hunter. On the court, she'll move from goal attack to the wing.
So I'm slowly easing into the position and, obviously I'm going to learn a lot more from all the Swift players and, it will be good though. It's all exciting.
Adding to the buzz is playing with her idol, Australian rep Catherine Cox, and the prospect of being selected to play in the Swifts' first game on the 7th of April, Lincoln's 23rd birthday.
I had the attitude of never giving up and I kind of just train hard. I'm a bit of a workhorse, that's what I'm known for, so yeah, I would say that.
It's paid off?
Definitely. All those hill sessions at King Edward Park has definitely paid off.
Adam McIlrick, NBN News.